With protests beginning to take place here at home, our team checked in with the Utah National Guard.
They told us they've had a long-standing presence at big protests. The specialist Mike Anderson looked into that history and how it may continue this weekend. Mike?
Yeah, Denny, Debbie, the Utah National Guard says this has been a key part of their job ever since Utah became a state. And they told us about some of the bigger responses that they have in history and why they're paying close attention to the protests this week.
May 2020, protesters flood Salt Lake City streets, demanding justice for George Floyd. And with the temperature rising, National Guard troops arrived to back up police.
Really, we had about 600 soldiers and airmen involved in that. Obviously, it wasn't all at once. It was rotating through shifts.
Noe Vasquez with the Utah National Guard says it was their biggest response to civil unrest in recent memory. The same summer, they sent troops to Washington, D.C.
We're there to support. We're not there to run the operation.
That support has a long history going back over 100 years. Here they are in 1896 at a rally for labor reform in Ogden, and again during a coal strike in the 1920s. Today, Vasquez says they have one main goal:
peacefully demonstrating to support that right, and that's our #1 priority.
Last week, President Trump sent National Guard troops to protests in Los Angeles against the wishes of that state's governor. Vasquez doesn't think that'll happen in Utah. He expects to hear from the governor long before the White House. Earlier this week, Governor Spencer Cox had this message for protesters.
And just a word of warning to anybody who is thinking about any type of violence or chaos or property damage or vandalism. It will not happen here, and you will be held accountable.
But Vasquez isn't waiting for the governor's call to start monitoring protests and preparing.
All it takes is just a little spark to send some of these from very peaceful legal demonstrations, I think, to something that we're having to respond to.
And we asked the National Guard what it might look like if they're called to respond. They say if they are called in to support police, you'll see them with helmets, shields, and batons, but they don't carry pepper spray or rubber bullets. Back to you.
We hope they won't be called in, but that's helpful information, Mike. Thank you. Stay with KSL as these protests unfold tonight. Our crews will be there and bring you updates as they happen.